from the largest and most impactful law enforcement event of the year. The 2023 International Association of Chiefs of Police annual conference and exposition is bringing together thousands of public safety personnel, and only IACP TV is taking you beyond the meeting. Welcome back to our fourth and final day. I'm Stephen Hall. All this week we've been showcasing how IACP is helping our men and women in blue advance their knowledge, build stronger leadership skills and learn to collaborate on a global scale. Today we focus on federal efforts. We have so much to cover on our last day together here in San Diego, and as always there are so many ways for you to watch. You can always find the latest IACP TV episode on the TVs throughout the Convention Center, on the in-house channels at several of our partner hotels, on the IACP meeting homepage, on the IACP meeting app, and on our YouTube and X pages, formerly known as Twitter. Earlier this year, the Department of Homeland Security partnered with the IACP to host an intelligence summit. This first of its kind gathering sought to deepen partnerships and improve information sharing among departments. David Rausch with the Tennessee Bureau on Investigation and Kevin Saup from the Department of Homeland Security are here in the studio with more. Well, good morning, and thank you ever so much indeed for joining us. We really appreciate it, so thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, thank you.
So we're here to talk about the 2022 Intelligence Summit. Just give us a little bit of an understanding, a little bit of a flavor, if you will, about how that came about.
Yeah, so I'll start, Kevin, if you don't mind.
Please.
So with IACP, my role is as a member of the executive board is to oversee a policy council, and that policy council is national security and transnational crime. So part of that is two committees that are very focused on intelligence and security, and that is our Transnational Crime Committee as well as our Homeland Security Committee. And so those committees were raising a concern about where we were in the intelligence space. And they knew that we had had two previous summits. As a matter of fact, some of our members were part of those summits, right, in 2002 and 2008. And so we hadn't had a summit since 2008, and there was concern that maybe we were losing our sight on the objective of assuring that we were collecting and sharing the appropriate intelligence.
Yeah, and I would just carry on with that the threats that the law enforcement community face today are unprecedented, right? Everything from terrorism to drugs and gangs, rising violent crime, cyber threats, it's much more complex than it has been in some of those earlier summits. And so this was a great opportunity that I think we collectively recognized and listened to our partners that we needed to come together, really reevaluate where we were at, what opportunities and actions we could take. And under Secretary Mayorkas' leadership at DHS, we thought it was an absolute great opportunity to partner with the IACP to really advance some of these efforts and take a hard look at what we're doing and how we can make it better.
So let's look at what you found, what your key findings were. So what did you find?
I'll jump in. So the summit itself focused on 6 key strategic areas: governance, communications, resources, training, technology, and our policies. And so what we really focused the summit on was discussing those issues, where we were at, where we had opportunities to improve them, and ultimately the summit and the discussions that took place there led to a series of after-action reports. And I like to say that's where the real work begins. How are we actually going to execute and implement the recommendations that were discussed by our partners?
Yeah, and part of that was a recognition that we had the bones in place to get this done. But the focus of the work of those groups, things like the Coordinating Council, the CICC, it was a working operating organization committee, but not the emphasis that it had once had seemed to wane, and their focus seemed to get a little scattered, and so that was part of the recognition of kind of reinvigorating the purpose of the structure that was built.
Well, let's pick up on that, on the next steps, and sort of what does the future hold, both in terms of implementing what you found and maybe plugging some of the gaps?
Yeah, so Kev has actually led
Yeah.
the effort. So in terms of putting together these teams that are now in place, that are professionals from throughout the country that are working with a focus on each of the areas that we've identified. So I'll let Kev.
Yeah, sure. So as was mentioned, the Criminal Intelligence Coordinating Council really is we've looked at as that kind of centralized point to help us coordinate this effort. And so what we've done is we've established 6 task teams focused on those 6 strategic areas. Those teams are composed of federal partners, state and local law enforcement, and what they're doing is really digging into the recommendations. And our ultimate hope and expectation is that we are going to have concrete actions and deliverables to address those recommendations and really advance these efforts moving forward. So those teams are knee deep in the efforts right now and working on those recommendations.
Well, thank you ever so much indeed for joining us. It's really fascinating stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Highlighting our first federal organisation now, the National Missing and Unidentified Missing Persons System, or NAMUS, is equal parts a resource for the criminal justice community and the distraught families of missing, unidentified and unclaimed persons. Take a look now at how they're helping solve cold cases across the country.
NAMUS is a national repository for long-term missing, unidentified, and unclaimed persons cases. It is a really powerful tool that allows for cross-matching and searching between both the missing persons and the unidentified persons records. It is the only national database that has a component to it that is limitedly viewable by the public. And this is really important because it helps empower family members to be more proactive in searching for their missing loved one. And it also helps to facilitate communication and data sharing between them and the agencies that are working on these cases.
NAMUS is much more than just a database. There's people behind the program that are actually assisting law enforcement, coroners, and medical examiners make those matches. And so, in addition to forensic services, which we offer for free, we also offer analytical services to help investigators make connections that might be critical in either closing that medical examiner case or closing that missing persons case.
For nearly 40 years, the Bureau of Justice Assistance has worked to reduce violent crime and reform our nation's criminal justice system. And their partnerships with IACP are crucial to achieving that goal. We're honoured now to have Director Carlton Moore here in the studio to discuss. Well, first of all, thanks ever so much for joining us, Carlton. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to be here in San Diego.
It is. This is my first time in San Diego, and I see why people love this place so much. It's incredible. It's beautiful.
So can we kick off? Can you just give us a short explanation maybe of what your department does?
Sure. So there's really a number of things that we were specifically created to do. One is to help build safer communities. The other is to reform our criminal justice system. And the third thing is to reduce violent crime. So that's why we were created.
So obviously we're here at the IACP conference. How do you work with the IACP?
Oh my gosh. It's, how much time do you have? Because we work with them, we work with them so much formally, but informally as well. I've had a chance to get to know the leadership team at the IACP, Terry and Vince and Domingo. And Domingo, like me, was the director of the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services and the BJA director. I bounce ideas off of those guys. I seek their advice for certain things. So there's an informal way that we do a lot of work together, but then there's formal stuff that we do that we depend on IACP.
Give us some examples of that formal work.
Sure. I think one of the most important things they do is our suicide consortium, the National Law Enforcement Suicide Consortium. That is one of our really key initiatives, and certainly at this time, it's a focus of many agencies across the country. We do a lot of work with them on officer safety and wellness. Of course, they have their Officer Safety and Wellness Symposium every year, It's actually the very first public speaking engagement I did after I was appointed as the BJA director, was to attend that symposium and spend time with them. And so wellness is something that's incredibly important to me. It has been even before I came to BJA. And certainly now that we have the opportunity through the resources that we have at BJA to focus on wellness, it's incredibly important. And IACP is one of our biggest partners in that effort.
Can you give me a feeling for how you kind of work with the IACP to further public policy?
Oh, well, there's a number of ways. I mean, one is through some of our most important priorities. So, like our Mass Violence Advisory Initiative, that's a partnership between us and the IACP. And unfortunately, there are many communities around the country who have had to deal with mass shootings. And what IACP does is they take people who've experienced this before and they get them engaged with communities who are going through something just so they know what to expect, and they have a partner there to share with them. And certainly, again, through the President's executive order on effective and accountable policing, the IACP wellness was one of the things that was identified in that. The Suicide Consortium was specifically identified by name. So these are important public policy priorities of the administration, certainly important to BJA, and the IACP is one of our most important partners there.
Final question, looking forward, how do you see that relationship as you move forward?
Well, I think we'll continue to work on some of the things I've already mentioned, but I was just having a conversation with I can't remember what he is in the line of vice presidents at IACP, but we were talking about culture. And we're trying to expand the pool of people who are interested in becoming police officers. But I think there's some work we need to do on culture to make sure that agencies are ready and welcoming as new people come into their organization. So I think that's where we'll spend some time.
Thanks ever so much for your time this morning. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now to the Federal Bureau of Investigations and their commitment to building relationships with federal agencies and law enforcement at all levels. Office of Partner Engagement Assistant Director Robert Contee joined us this morning to discuss their mission. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for taking time to talk to us.
My pleasure to be here.
How important are partnerships to the FBI?
Partnerships are very important to the FBI. It's really at the core of everything that we do, especially at a day and time where you see in law enforcement where there are reduced resources, reduced personnel. Those partnerships, that collaboration with law enforcement agencies really all across the globe are very essential to FBI. In fact, partnerships is part of one of the 4 guiding principles of the FBI. So it is really, when I say at the center of everything we do, it is at the center of everything that we do.
So how does a partnership begin with the FBI?
Well, it really starts with relationship. One of the things that I will often say is that you can't have partnership unless you have relationship first. And it's coming to conferences like this. It's in addition to that, demonstrating to our partners how we are able to assist. And from that, relationships are built, and strong partnerships are what the result of those relationships are.
Can I just build on that answer a little bit? So how do you actually go about supporting your partners?
So there are a number of things. Some of our agencies, as they're going through very difficult cases, we at the FBI are able to provide resources and tools that may not be available to some of our agencies that we assist. For example, you think of a small or rural police department that have very limited resources, but they are able to call upon the FBI to provide those tools and resources to help them combat violent crime, to help them combat whatever the issues may be in their respective communities. I think it goes a long way with giving those agencies credibility within their community to be able to have that connection to the FBI. That's one of the ways that we assist. And then you think on a larger scale, some of the things that we do. One of the most recent cases, the young girl who was kidnapped in New York, bringing to bear some of those resources to assist with very quickly being able to get a young child and reunite that child back with their family and hold a violent person accountable for their actions. Again, that is part of the partnership and what the FBI brings to the table.
So how are you here at this conference engaging with your partners?
Yeah, I can borrow a term from the director. You know, we are here flooding the zone, and essentially what that means is that we have a representation from our field office and the 56 field offices across the country. We have representation here, leadership from within the FBI's executive staff that are fanned out all across the IACP conference. We're participating in various sessions that are happening. Our director obviously did the opening session, which was I felt very impactful. And he was able to speak to big agencies and small agencies alike, you know, with that common language about what we all stand for, and that is protection of our country, protection of the citizens of this country, and how we really collaborate together to build stronger partnerships.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There is an evolving landscape for policing, and the Phoenix Police Department is actively adapting to those changes with cutting-edge technology and data-driven strategies.
Phoenix is an incredibly diverse and unique city.
We want the community to understand fully what we do, why we do it, and how we do things.
This new era of transparency is a game changer.
The Arizona model is now what SAMHSA bases its national best practices on. It is what other states are looking to, and our stakeholders, our local partners, are giving technical assistance across the country and in some cases across the world.
It started as a pilot program. We've since made it a full-time program within the department. The detectives that are there are fully invested. They are resolving cases. I'm very hopeful for the future.
One of the first things I did when I arrived here last year was make sure that we took a look at our use of force policy.
I know we're headed in the right direction with it, in that we are trying to make sure that the current paradigm of use of force is in line with the world we currently live in.
The community can expect an incredibly engaged department that is going to be focused on meeting the needs of the community as we go forward in the 21st century.
Staying in Arizona, discover a law enforcement force that goes beyond the traditional highway patrol. The Arizona Department of Public Safety boasts world-class detectives, an elite SWAT team, and state-of-the-art crime labs.
The Arizona Department of Public Safety is the premier multifaceted state-level law enforcement agency that excels in the area of air rescue, traffic enforcement, criminal investigations, evidential analysis, and regulatory licensing. We are Highway Patrol and more. We have internationally recognized detectives, state-of-the-art crime labs, SWAT, and a world-class aviation unit. The department is constantly evolving and growing and believes in partnering with other organizations to create opportunities. Embodying the gold standard of public service, we value, encourage, and promote the talents of our team members. Our connection to the community, whether small towns, rural, or metropolitan areas, is vital to protecting those we serve. We are devoted to technical growth and innovation to be best in class in search and rescue, investigations, policing, and meeting the dynamic needs of the communities we serve. Arizona Department of Public Safety, the gold standard of public service.
Our final stop in Arizona is the Yuma Police Department, where their collaboration with other agencies and their community partnerships comes second only to their excellence in innovation.
Our mission is to enhance the quality of life by providing the community and the visitors with responsive and professional services, and that makes us one community, one team.
I think the Yuma Police Department is the most essential part of our community.
With the technology that we have, with the compassion that the officers have, and their dedication to the community, it makes the quality of life in Yuma one of the best in the country.
Last week we did an event for the Special Olympics, and it was just so nice to see all these people that were there, not just to support the athletes, but they were also excited to see us there supporting the athletes.
I think students, kids, anybody really needs to know that the police department is here for them. I think that innovation is so important within the police department that we have to step into the 21st century and keep up with all of the current technology.
The Yuma Police Department is always looking for the best way to harness technology for the betterment and for the safety of our community.
By serving as the professional voice of law enforcement, IACP works to ensure that community stakeholders, legislators and other groups understand issues related to law enforcement and public safety. Now with more on the IACP's advocacy efforts are Jean Vogelin and Terence Cunningham. To Texas we go, and to the Sugar Land Police Department's 6 pillars for creating a positive culture for officers.
Here in Sugar Land, at least with our police department, we are absolutely one team. So our mission, our vision, we're going to be the industry standard. And we're setting programs, establishing programs, we're establishing lines of communication, accountability to the next level. And we're being very successful at it. So our mission is to be the industry standard. Our mission is to provide the absolute best police services to the city residents, visitors here in Sugar Land. Family first, professionalism, leadership, accountability, growth, and communication. The other piece of those 6 pillars, they ultimately all tie together. They interact to create our culture of professionalism, to create our culture of service. Moving forward, we keep our foot on the gas every day here. We have to keep our foot on the gas. We're looking out the windshield. We're not looking out the rearview mirror, and we're serving the citizens.
Turning now to the Albany Police Department, where they're making sure that with every interaction they're building trust and modeling ethical community policing.
The biggest capability that the Albany Police Department has are our people. We have critical thinking, creative thinking officers who oftentimes would reach out to the people who are experiencing the challenges every single day, listen to what they're saying, implement it, work together to show how we can improve our community and how we can combat crime.
The Albany Police Department is trying to empower the community more, have better communication with the community through our community safety officers, as well as the community relations unit. We have them helping start new neighborhood watches.
We continuously make efforts to get involved with the community events and get them to know the police as a person of the community and just not someone that works for the department.
At the end of the day, we own our communities, and I think we can do a better job of being more supportive because transparency goes both ways. The community must be willing to help.
One of the key ways the IACP serves its members is through IACP Net. This professional tool helps law enforcement leaders make data-driven decisions through intuitive online tools and libraries. Let's check it out.
Pricing for IACP Net works based off of agency size. Based on the agency size, it will determine your price and how many users you're allocated. Currently, IACP Net has over 100,000 resources online with about 30,000 policies.
One of the biggest ones was we just recently rolled out the body-worn cameras for our officers, and we needed a good direction to look at different policies that were going to help us to have the best practice of what we were doing. Using this, it really helped us to make our policies, because we're looking at vetted and standard policies that really helped our organization. By doing this, we also looked at the periodical section as well, and we were able to look at some of the pitfalls and mistakes that other agencies have made, and we were able to use this and make sure that we didn't make the same mistakes.
We have about 1,350 agencies utilizing IACP Net with about 6,300 individual users.
I think one of the biggest things, we also started a mental health clinician, and using IACP Net to form that, using the policies that they've used in the past, we were able to look at it and implement it for our community to make sure that it was the right program. And it really has worked unbelievable using these resources not just for the community, but also for the officers as well, part of our mental health for the wellness and safety for our officers. So it's been a huge benefit for us. I think also as a new administrator, it gives me the resources that I need, and it's right at my fingertips, so if I need questions or answers, I can look right at it.
Materials are uploaded to IACP Net daily, which accounts to about 200 articles monthly. Law enforcement agencies only can utilize IACP Net, which includes local, state, federal, which also includes colleges, universities, and tribal agencies. Info for IACP Net can be sent to info.iacpnet@iacpnet.org.
Today, attendees are getting to hear from top-ranking US federal law enforcement authorities as this year's General Assembly comes to a close.
Acts of hate, gun violence, and mass violence occur in this country with disturbing regularity. I listened to stories of pain and heartache, but also bureaucracy that made it difficult to get support and services.
Any type of crisis, communication is really important. And I think I sort of reflected upon some basic fundamentals about communication. Communicating up, communicating down, and communicating out.
And with that official wrap-up, we wanted to hear from you. We wanted to speak to attendees to find out what the highlight has been of your week.
My biggest takeaway from IACP is that with all the different agencies throughout the whole world, we all have the common goal of officer safety and officer wellness. I'm going to take away from my agency that.
My biggest takeaway from IACP is getting out here to get a chance to meet people all over the world, all different types of options, different vendors, the brotherhood. I think it's just a momentous moment.
I think his takeaway has been the exciting gathering of police chiefs to network, to gather together and share ideals.
My biggest takeaway from IACP, like it is every year, is the opportunity to be surrounded by law enforcement professionals from around the country and to find out how different agencies and organizations and leaders are tackling major issues.
In Boston, community policing is about more than just words. It's about action. By putting people first and building trust, the department is on a mission to serve and protect its communities.
I saw Boston transform from a department that didn't really practice community policing to actually adopting it and transitioning towards it and actually flourishing. And so much so that we became known as some of the best in the country in doing community policing. What we're trying to do is to put the citizens first at the center of all we do. We want to partner with them, we want to hear from them so we can actually make sure that people feel safe and secure just by our presence.
I think community policing to me means to be involved, to be giving of yourself. As a human being, we constantly want to help others. I think it's innately in us. It's not about us as individuals, it's not about us as police officers. It's about what are the needs about the community, or what do people want.
Boston is going to have this next generation of recruits that really are part of the community.
Each section of the city is very different. Community CompStat, which is actually to go out in each section of the community to empower the public in those communities by providing data around what's going on in their neighborhoods and then get their feedback as well on what priorities they would like us to have. Why not use our resources to meet the needs of the public where they are?
So we finish our tour of departments now with Escondido, California, where tackling crime reduction means community collaboration. Let's see how this department is implementing a proactive approach.
In law enforcement, we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we reduce crime? Well, what's a better way to reduce crime than trying to keep it from ever happening? And the best way to keep it from ever happening is to partner with our community. Really, in Escondido, we believe community policing is a philosophy that impacts the entire department and how we operate.
Compact is a community-based organization that was birthed out of youth that were still falling through the cracks, and this community said, we're not going to have that.
We've been 18 years. POW is doing his part, you know, the FIT group is doing his part, all these different interventions. But it started a long time ago, you know, and I remember the chief of police said, just give me one name of one kid that you were able to help him to change his life. Now, we don't have one name, we have many names.
The key to law enforcement success is we always have to be mindful of our role to enforce the law, but that we're also finding ways to make sure that we're working closely with the community so they understand we're there to help and to make sure that they're safe.
Well, that's it, I'm afraid, for our 4 days here in the beautiful city of San Diego. Thank you so much for watching, but more importantly, thank you for your service. Now, if you've missed any of the programs, you can catch them on our YouTube channel. But until 2024 in the great city of Boston, Massachusetts, it's goodbye.